and for being with us here on CNBC TV18. We're now joined by Anurag Sehgal, Managing Director of Waterhouse and Company, and Himanshu Tewari, Partner, Trade and Customs at KPMG. Anurag, let me begin by asking you, Waterhouse has done an assessment of reciprocal tariffs on India and the rest of the world. How do you think, and which according to you are the key sectors which will immediately be impacted by whatever tariff is announced by the US government come 12:30 a.m. India time on the 3rd of April?
So thanks for inviting me here. So yes, we have done a detailed assessment. The assessment is largely on the impact on businesses and what businesses should do. Now, having said that, as far as sectors are concerned, largely all the sectors wherein India has considerable presence in the US market will get impacted. The reason is simple, because as of now, though we don't know what will be the shape of the reciprocal tariffs, but what we hear are that the reciprocal tariffs could be product specific or could be country specific. And there could be many, many different permutations and combinations between this. But even if they are country specific, India's average import tariff is considerably higher as compared to that imposed by US, whether you see in trade weighted average terms also. But if they are commodity specific, then commodity to commodity, India's tariffs are considerably higher as compared to the US. So irrespective of them, while the impact may vary in the percentage terms, but all the products, say for example, smartphones. Now, India has become a hub of smartphone exports since past few years with the success of PLI scheme and all. But if on smartphones, India's import duty is 15%. If these smartphones are exported by India under the reciprocal tariff measures to US, they may also attract 15% tariff. So they may also get affected. As of now, the smartphone exports from India attract 0% tariff into US. So these may get affected. Similar impact may happen on textile and apparel sector, similar impact on pharma sector, similar impact on auto components. In fact, on auto components, a separate tariff measure has already been announced by the US. So these all sectors may get impacted. Necessarily, whether the impact in the long term is beneficial to Indian exporters or detrimental will have to be seen, because in many cases, what we have examined in our report, the impact on a pure cost arbitrage basis, as far as tariff is concerned, may also be beneficial to Indian exporters if compared with other competitive partner countries, which may be attracting higher tariffs.
All right. Let me also go across to Mr. Himanshu Tewari. Himanshu, as far as KPMG is concerned, have you done any assessment on what extent can India reduce tariffs, the average tariff rate? So what the US is right now talking about is that India's tariff rate all across the board is as high as 17%. US is around 2.5%. When it comes to non-agricultural goods, it's almost 13%. You need to bring it down somewhere close to the United States. What can India do in terms of bringing average tariffs down comfortably to somewhere bring it in line with where the US is?
Thanks, Parikshit, for having me here. I guess India is following a two-layered approach. One is a unilateral part of the tariff reduction that we see very clearly that Feb 1st, when the Union Finance Minister announced the budget, during the budget time, the duty rates on 1600 cc and above automotive, which effectively is the area where Harley-Davidson supplies motorcycles in India, the duty rates have been reduced substantially. Also, we have seen that the duty rates on whiskeys have been reduced, originating in United States. So there's a unilateral action that India is taking in reducing the tariff in the products where the US manufacturers and producers have a deep interest. This product range includes automobile, medical devices, agricultural produce, whiskey, dairy product, steel and aluminum products. So here we will see that India is initiating the steps by demonstrating significant reduction for specific products. But in addition to that, there will be a bilateral approach where the two sides will sit together and come to a common agreement that which are the products where India is seeking market share increase in US and where US manufacturers are seeking market share increase. So that will be a subject matter of bilateral discussion. But I would emphasize this, Parikshit, that while the world has latched onto this April 2nd as the date where significant announcements will be made, but I would say that it is beginning of a period of change. We'll have to watch it out for an extended period of time. It is that the trade economic cycle that we have seen for past 3 decades, that trade economic cycle is changing its direction. We have seen in past 3 decades that the duties were being reduced. It was the phase of free trade and globalization. That trade economic cycle is changing. The tariff barriers, the more active users of trade and tariff barrier would be in vogue, and various countries would be using it. So it's a very active phase of change that we'll watch out for next decade or so. So it is not a point of time event, it is a period of time event, and we have to approach it in that manner.
All right. So, Himanshu, do you believe that this is weaponization of tariffs, and it's not just limited to US? Other nations are also watching, and perhaps this is the beginning of weaponization of tariffs and trade, not just for 1 year, but for the next 1 decade?
I would say that yes, it would be a long-term layered rollout of trade and tariff changes. I won't use the phrase weaponization. I would say that trade and tariff as a policy tool, which will be more actively used in the coming decade, and various countries will take a very calibrated approach and to these changes. It is a long-term change, and it will roll out in multiple phases with various stakeholders balancing out and observing what is happening at the other end.
Right. Let me go across to Anurag once again. Anurag, will the bilateral trade deal, there is a lot of optimism that such a deal would be signed by September or October this year when Donald Trump visits India. In fact, India has said that the talks last week have been very positive, and the US is encouraged by those talks. Will this bilateral trade agreement be actually beneficial for Indian companies in growing their trade basket, becoming a larger supplier for the world as well?
Yeah, surely. There is no doubt about it. If India and US are able to close this bilateral trade deal, it will be beneficial to Indian exporters for the sheer reason. I can give 2 reasons why it will be beneficial. One, when the bilateral trade deal happens, even if it is not a FTA, it is a side deal wherein MFN-based reductions are agreed by India. But then also India would seek something against the market access which India is providing. So some access, greater access to the US market will be gained by India. One. Second, if reciprocal tariffs have been brought in, or other such tariffs have been brought in, say auto component tariffs have been announced, in bilateral trade deal, India will surely negotiate a way to mitigate these tariffs. So existing trade barriers or the imposition of certain more trade barriers will be mitigated. More trade openness will be brought in terms of market access in the US market. So these two will be a great enabler for Indian exports to the US, and certainly it will benefit Indian exporters. One more important thing is the post trade. Say if US as of now, since past 4 months, has only announced negotiation of a trade deal with India amongst all the major economies. So even the US businesses, which know that manufacturing setup in US is a long and ardent process, and cost of production could be very high, because for years now US has moved on from a manufacturing economy to a largely tech driven and services economy. So manufacturing can be a long run process. So for India US trade deal, even the backing could be given by the US businesses who know that apart from India, they would not be able to source cost-effective, manufactured, and resilient supply chain products into the US. So, in all, if India is able to close this trade deal, it will be very beneficial for Indian exporters. That I'm very sure.
All right, we've run out of time, but thank you so much, Anurag and Himanshu, for joining us on the program with those sharp views on what 2nd of April 2025 means in the history of world economics going forward. With that, it's a wrap on this special episode here on tariffs and trade. We'll keep an eye out on how India is impacted on the 2nd of April.